Guide curves used with the sweep feature allow you to vary the size of the profile as it is swept along its path. Let's take a look at a simple example of this. Here I have two sketches, a circle sketched on the top plane and a vertical line sketched on the front plane. Before I click the sweep icon, I want to create a third sketch to be used as a guide curve. I'll start a new sketch on the front plane. The sketch will be a 3-point arc. When you sketch a guide curve, it must be attached to the profile somehow. In other words, I cannot have a guide curve like this. The sketch has to touch the profile like this. To ensure the curve is attached to the profile, you can use a special geometric relation called pierce. To use the pierce relation, keep one important item in mind. The pierce relation is only available between a point and a curve. If you select 2 points, the pierce relation will not be available. You must select a point and a curve such as a sketch entity. Here I'll select the endpoint of the arc, the point, and the circle from the profile sketch, the curve. You can see the pierce relation appear in the Property Manager. I'll select it, and now I'm sure the point is exactly on the circle. Before I exit the guide curve sketch, there are some things you should know about the length of the guide curve and path. Essentially, the sweep will only go as far as the shortest curve, whether it's the path or the guide curve. If you have a situation where you're using multiple guide curves, the shortest one will control the length of the sweep. In this case, I want the sweep to be as long as the path. So to make sure the guide curve is at least as long as the path, I will create a horizontal relation between the endpoint of the arc and the endpoint of the path. Although it's not necessary, I'll add a couple of dimensions to control the guide curve. I'll dimension the path to establish the size of the sweep at the top, and to control the curvature of the arc, I'll dimension its radius. With the guide curve fully defined, I'll exit the sketch and click the sweep icon. I'll select the profile and the path. To use the guide curve, I'll expand the guide curve section and select the other sketch. You can immediately see the preview update. I'll click OK, and the sweep with the guide curve is complete. Before we conclude this lesson, I want to point out an important detail when working with guide curves. Remember, the purpose of guide curves is to change the size of the profile as it is swept along a path. Let me edit the profile sketch. Notice the circle is not dimensioned. If I add a dimension to the circle, as soon as I exit the sketch, the sweep will not work. Consider that when the circle has a diameter defined with a dimension, the guide curve cannot change this diameter as it's swept along the path. In most cases, fully defining your profile sketch defeats the purpose of using guide curves. One more thing I want to mention. In this example, I sketched the profile before sketching the path or guide curve. If you sketch the path or guide curves first, you can use them as guidelines as you create the profile. If you intend to use guide curves, I highly recommend you sketch them before sketching your profile. This will help you avoid using dimensions and relations on your profile that may accidentally restrict your use of guide curves as we just saw. This is only a recommendation, but one that can help you out of trouble when using guide curves.